sorry, that is right. Okay, yeah, that's good.
We are looking at something extremely special here, which is a collection of cigars which we believe belong to a Mr. John Short of Exeter or thereabouts, who passed away somewhere at the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries, and locked the cabinet, which was not opened until sometime early in the 21st century. The cabinets themselves that we're looking at, which are these wonderful cedar boxes, almost like wardrobes, are quite well documented. If I show you here from a late 1920s catalogue, there we see a cabinet of 1,000 cigars like this. These cabinets became really quite enormous. I mean, here is another one from Bolivar, which contains no less than 10,000 cigars. What we're looking at here is a 500 cigar cabinet, which would be sold as a box to an individual customer, a cigar enthusiast of merit. Perhaps not, I mean, there would be bigger cabinets than this, but this would be one for a provincial lawyer, as Mr. Short was, who was a considerable cigar aficionado, would be the sort of thing that he would find necessary to have in his cellar at his home in the countryside. There's so much which is remarkable about this, because these cabinets are rare, but they're not particularly unusual to find them in this size or in the larger sizes. And over the years, I myself have dreamt about the idea that somewhere in a country house in England there is one of these still retaining its contents. And here the other day, I found at Souters of Mount Street in Mayfair, this cabinet still with its original cigars inside. Interestingly, it had been locked probably for 110, 115 years. And so here we have Mr. Short's collection of cigars as it was at the moment that he died, probably around 1899, 1900. The cigars themselves, the majority of them in the bundles tied with silk ribbons, have the particular shape that is bulbous in the middle and pointed at both ends, which was the prevalent shape in the last quarter of the 19th century. The silk ribbons are marked clearly H. Upmann, and indeed there are H. Upmann emblems on either door, sporting the medals that H. Upmann won at various trade exhibitions principally in Europe. I think there's one from Australia in the sort of 1860s and 1870s. Perhaps the most interesting thing in terms of dating these cigars is that also contained in the collection is this box. In fact, there are two boxes of cigars which are not H. Upmann. This one is from Partagas, and it's still completely sealed, as it was on the day that it was put into the cabinet and the cabinet was locked. And written on it there is Partagas Cupidos, I think, 97. Now, what does 97 mean? Well, it is certain from the other markings on the box that does mean 1897. What do I say? Why do I say that? Well, there's an extremely rare warranty seal. This was the very, very first warranty seal introduced by the Cuban industry in 1889. It had the name of the manufacturer stamped across it as well. That seal went through until around 1905, so that means that this box is between, could be as late as 1889, but could not be later than 1905 or thereabouts. It also has a second seal on it here from Juan A. Bances, who took a share in Partagas. I think it was in the late 1880s. So that's absolutely correct for the period. So that box really does give us a date, but it should be noted that date, 97, would be the date that Mr. Short bought these cigars, not the date that they were made. They would have been made before that, and the tradition certainly is in those days was that the cigar stores the cigar importers and indeed the retail stores in the United Kingdom would keep cigars for 2 or 3 years before they sold them. So that would put it in, let's say, 1895, 1894. Now that date is also relevant, particularly within Cuban history, and does have implications for the rest of the cigars, because in 1895 the War of Independence, the second War of Independence in Cuba, broke out, and it lasted for 3 years until 1898. Now during that period a lot of damage was caused to the Cuban cigar industry and indeed to the crops and fields. The war raged throughout the island, but also in Pinar del Rio, which is the prime tobacco growing region. So there were great shortages of supply of export cigars to anywhere in the world, and the United Kingdom included. So that would lead me to believe that these are probably, certainly this box would be from 1895 or 1894. And I have a suspicion that indeed the Upmann in here might even be a little bit older. Not a lot older, almost certainly within the 1890s decade. There is one random cigar. He was obviously a loyal H. Upmann man with a slight penchant for Partagas, but also here we have an example of the oldest, the first ever cigar brand registered in Cuba, which is Cabañas y Carvajal, which goes back to 1810. And that again is a classic shape of cigar from the 1880s, 1890s. There's still a lot of research to be done. I'll rerun that. There is still a lot of research to be done on the details of how these cigars have survived this long. But in principle, we are looking at something which is very special indeed. Whilst the cigars need some treatment before they might become smokable, this is a very remarkable find.